Big day to gamble as the NBA draft is tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC, ESPN, and ESPN+. We've got you covered. That's Tyler Fulghum. I'm Joe Fortenbaugh, and welcome to your Thursday installment of Bet. 30 days from today, it's the start of the college football season, so we've got some action for you. Naturally, NFL player props as we continue our series this weekend. Sucker bets. We've got to be careful, though. They're falling apart. That's something you didn't see before the show started. NFL fans, rejoice. Go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting for our entire two-a-day series where we give you our favorite bets on all 32 NFL teams. All right. We got a lot of props to get through. Are you ready?
I think I'm more ready than your Mont Blanc.
There goes that pen.
Just fell onto the floor.
So what we're going to need to do at some point during this show is some crafty camera work so I can get out of the chair.
One shot on me.
Get the pen, and come back.
See, it's how the sausage is made. Here it is. Here's the one shot.
Not going for it here.
He's not going to go for it.
I'm not going for it here.
I was going to vamp. I was going to give you time.
I'm going to do it here.
Fine, then let's get this bad boy started.
I am going to wait for the viewers to guess when it's going to happen. We'll see. It's going to happen at some point. Let's see if you know when. All right, we begin with a little game called Draft or Pass. We have 6 NBA draft props for tonight. We're going to lay them out for you, and we're either going to draft them, as in we're going to bet them, or we're going to pass, meaning we don't like them. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, the first one out of the gate. UConn guard James Bouknight. His over-under is 6.5. For those of you who are new, under 6.5 means he will go in the first 6 picks. Over 6.5 means he will go 7 or later. Under 6.5 is juiced, minus 155. Draft or pass?
I'm going to pass. Not because I don't believe Bouknight won't get taken in the first 6 picks. If it happens, it'll likely be at 6. But I bought this prop on James Bouknight when it was 9.5.
Yes, you did.
And I said, go under on James Bouknight. He's a scorer that teams are going to love. And there's no reason for me to draft it or buy it at 6.5 with this juice. It only takes one player to ruin this. And a guy like, even though he's falling down boards, Jonathan Kuminga or Franz Wagner, or a team trading up to get a certain player because they already have a Bouknight on their team and they want someone else, a different archetype or a different role. It just takes one because the first 5 are pretty much set with the players we know we're going to go there. So I'm going to pass, even though I love Bouknight and think he's likely going in the top 6, definitely the top 7, but I have him at under 9.5 from a week ago.
Good news, the pen is back.
There it is.
I used that long diatribe to get the pen. Bad news, I smashed my watch off the table, which you probably heard. So at least a few things are going to be broken as a result of picking up that pen. But that's neither here nor there. I agree with you. I will draft James Bouknight at under 6.5. This is going to be a razor-thin margin.
Oh, you disagree with me then? I'm going to pass.
Oh, you're passing on under 6.5.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I don't like the price, and I already bought under at 9.5. Was my rationale while you were busy searching for your pen.
This is the problem with getting the pen and almost breaking the watch. I wasn't listening to anything he said. I just assumed he was going under. I'm drafting. I'm taking it. I'm putting him right in the 6th spot. I'm going to try to thread the needle here.
I agree.
It looks like, according to our own Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN, Cade Cunningham, number 1, Jalen Green, number 2, and Evan Mobley, number 3. 4 and 5 still up in the air. I'm going to slot it at Oklahoma City at 6 to draft James Bouknight. The biggest concern, I actually like this more now, the biggest concern was that Bouknight might not go 6 because Oklahoma City was trying to trade up. They were trying to take that arsenal of picks to move up in the draft. But now that Cunningham, Green, and Mobley are going to be off the board, you might as well stay put. Hopefully he's the guy at 6. I will draft
If you haven't already bought in on a James Bouknight under, I agree with you. There's still some value here, so to speak, but I had it at 9.5. So
again,
that's
the
only reason why
priciest it's been. No, and that's good. You were ahead of the market. This is the priciest it's been, so you're jumping in at the last moment. All right, draft or pass number 2. Baylor guard Davion Mitchell over 12.5. That is currently minus 130.
Okay, the exact same situation, just the inverse as James Bouknight. A couple weeks ago, or last week, Davion Mitchell's prop was 8.5, and I hammered the over. But now it's corrected to a good spot, so once again, I will pass here on him going over 12.5 because it takes just one team. He has an elite skill set that is ready for the NBA, his on-ball defense, and if a team trades up that wants that, then I'm protecting myself here. And again, I already invested in Mitchell last week at over 8.5. No reason to do it now at this juicy price and a number and a line that's moved 4 slots in the draft.
Aren't you just a living, breathing Gray Sports almanac getting ahead of all of these moves? Kudos, sir. Kudos. I will draft this one. I will play the over 12.5, let's follow the money. Not only has the prop been going up, but the juice has been going up as well. We've got some other guys coming up later in the show where their juice and prop has been going the other direction. There's a couple names that, as Mitchell has gone up, have been coming down. Right. Josh Giddey, Alperen Sengun. These are two names I don't know much about them. They're foreign-born players. I'll get to know them. But as I see them climb the boards, guys have to get knocked out. Right. And if Book Knight's going to go 6, and Kuminga's going to be in there as well.
Franz Wagner.
You have a couple other guys that continue to climb. Corey Kispert's a guy I like. We'll talk about him in a moment. Someone's got to fall. And Mitchell looks like he's going to be the guy. Our own Dallin Cuff, like the over here. I'll side with Dallin. I will draft it, and I'll play over 12.5. But again, you're not getting the best number. Keep that in mind. Number 3, draft or pass. The aforementioned Gonzaga wing, Corey Kispert, over 13.5, minus 135.
Here's a guy that you have been on, I think, kind of beating the market there. I will draft at over 13.5 because it was, I think, 14.5 when we were talking about it earlier. Now you get an extra spot inside the lottery, and I will go over. I think he's a potential victim of all those names moving up. And one that we'll mention in a second, we'll get to who I think is going to slide into the lottery that many people don't. So it's not by much. If he goes over, he doesn't get drafted any later than 15th.
Okay.
But I'm going to draft the over 13.5 because that line has switched from 14.5 when you were talking about last week to now down to 13.5, so I have a little extra wiggle room.
Okay. I want to start by apologizing to our graphics people because I'm passing here, but I'm looking at my notes and seeing that I submitted draft. So I want you to know I am sorry. What I meant was pass. I am going under. I still believe Kispert, who I liked at under 14.5, will go under 13.5 as well. Every team needs more shooting. Yep. No one's ever said, you know what, we've got enough shooting. Right. We're fine. More shooting. Best three-pointer in the draft in terms of shooting it. That would be Corey Kispert. He is a guy that could have the potential to go 50, 40, 90, which means 50% from the field, 40% from deep, 90% from the stripe. And we've seen the direction it's been moving. Now, this is going to be tight, but I think 10, 11, and 12 are 3 picks that are in play for Corey Kispert. I think they moved it from 14.5 to 13.5 because the Warriors are sitting there at a certain spot, and they are in contention as well at 14. So they moved it to 13.5.
Look at the professionals we have behind the scenes. You
Probably
set them up there. They took their time. They fixed it for you, Fortenbaugh. Well done behind the scenes.
This show has been all about playing possum and stalling. I needed to pick up a pen. He talked for an hour and a half. We did a little filibuster there to get the graphic change. I mean, this is really taking you behind the scenes of how TV works. All right, number 4, draft or pass. Tennessee wing, Keon Johnson, under 14.5. It's minus 115 both ways.
Yeah. So this is a coin flip in Vegas, so to
Topsy-turvy.
speak. And Johnson may be one of the most polarizing prospects in this entire draft. There's some people that think he's worth a mid to high lottery pick because dude set the combine record for high jump, or for vertical jump, I should say. Not
really?
High jump, he set the combine record for vertical jump. The dude is a freakish athlete. Now, his shot may need some work, and he's a big ball of energy, but is it always directed in the right places? So he's going to need to be coached up, some of kind of the X's and O's of NBA basketball, team defense, those things. But he has some very moldable traits that people covet in the NBA, most notably length and athleticism. So I am going to draft the under here, despite him having this wide delta of what people think he is as a prospect. I'm going to draft the under because generally NBA teams, GMs, and scouts will gamble on high upside athleticism, which Johnson has in spades, even though his floor is pretty low if he doesn't realize some of those traits.
I'm going to disagree and pass, but I'm not going to sit here and arduously or adamantly disagree. It's going to be close.
Yeah.
It's going to be very close. Wasn't his original prop in the top 10?
8.5.
Okay, 8.5. I had that written down. If memory serves, and I think you were on the over there at that point, but now it's coming in the range where you might want to trap it and play the under. Okay, I get that.
Slide back.
Very raw, to your point. Very raw on offense, very raw on defense. Not the type of guy who can come in and even contribute in year one, right? Like, you want a guy that can at least maybe, with this type of pick, if you're a contender like the Warriors, someone who can help you. He is not ready to do that, but as my esteemed colleague just said, very high ceiling. So the type of team that would like a Keon Johnson would be someone who's not competing this year. The Oklahoma City Thunder have a pick right there at number 16. Keep that in mind. But 16, of course, higher than 14.5, which is why I'm going to pass on the opportunity to take the under. All right, number 5. LSU guard Cameron Thomas, someone you've been quite fond of, under 21.5 with the under juiced at -125.
Yeah, it was 22.5 earlier. It's come down. I'm still going under there. Just quite simply, this guy is an automatic bucket. He averaged 23 points per game as a freshman last year, 6'4", good length for a guard, can handle the rock, has Dame Lillard type range. He'll shoot a three from 7 feet beyond the three-point line. And that's something that I also think is very attractive to NBA teams. Not just athleticism, but a guy who can get you buckets. And not more importantly, but added to that volume scoring, if you put him on the charity stripe, like Dame Lillard, like Steph Curry, like Kyrie Irving, he's automatic. 88.2% free throw shooter last year at LSU. So he is a guy who a team in desperate need of offense will draft. And we know there's a lot of teams in the NBA in desperate need of offense.
Agreed. You've been high on this from the beginning. I will agree with you here. I will draft as well from 22.5 to 21.5. My man is moving the market. So that's something to get excited about here. Big-time scorer who needs to work on defense, right? If the defense was there, he'd probably be going higher. Teams that make a lot of sense, New Orleans at 17 is someone to keep an eye on. Atlanta at 20 is another potential landing spot. File those two away as we play under 21.5 on Cameron Thomas. Final one, we're going deep here, but one of the best players in the country when it comes to college hoops, LUKA GARZA, Iowa center, under 54.5. -115 both ways.
Yeah, this is a guy who's been, Naismith College Basketball Player of the Year, but obviously athletically limited, taking it to the next level. But I will draft an under 54.5, so there's only 60 picks. So as long as he comes in the top 54, there's only 6 guys that would have to be drafted after him. I think there'll be at least one team that will draft this guy based on his intangibles, his production, and hope that he can be a solid bench contributor for his NBA career. Not like a starter, but like a Tyler Hansbrough type. A guy who dominated in college, and you could probably come in and pencil him for 8 to 10 years in the NBA, who can give you 15 to 18 minutes, and he'll score, he'll give you good effort, he'll be limited, but that's what a bench player usually is in the NBA. So, sure, why not? I'll draft on under 54.5 because it's college resume.
All right, I'm with you. I'm drafting as well. Full disclosure, I have no idea what the heck is going to happen with LUKA GARZA. We can sit here and handicap some of these high variants once you get to the second round, which is why it's -115 both ways. It really, truly is a coin flip. Athleticism is an issue, but he is the type of guy that might be able to develop. Ultimately, this is what I like to call a pizza money bet. I'll throw a few bucks on this, maybe enough to buy myself a pizza, and that's that on the under. My main rationale is that I went through like 10 mock drafts, and I think 8 of them had him 54 or earlier. But it's really tight. So I'm going to side with the mock draft consensus, little bit of pizza money on the under, and that's how we're going to play it. All right. So more on that tonight as we get to 8 p.m. Eastern, ESPN, ABC, and ESPN Plus will all have your coverage, as we turn to college, the word I was trying to get to, and the college football gridiron. 30 days from today, ladies and gentlemen, the season will begin with week 0. 5 games are on the card. So here's what we are going to do as we continue to build up to college football. 2 picks each. Okay? They can be win totals. They can be week 0, week 1, to win the conference, to win the championship. However you want to go about it, we're going to go 1, 1, 1, 1. A little ping pong action here. First up, what are you thinking? All
right, I'll make it tight and sweet because you heard it yesterday on Daily Wager if you watched. Week 0 matchup.
I watched.
Battle of the I-10 Silver Spade rivalry game. UTEP visiting New Mexico State. And I will take the 7-point home dog, New Mexico State against UTEP for these reasons. UTEP over the last 5 seasons, 4th worst cover percentage in FBS at just 35.8%. And their coach, Dana Dimel, he was there for 3 of those years. So it's not like they're, switched up their coaching staff. He's been part of the problem, ostensibly. They're 3-27 over those 5 seasons on the road, Joe. They're a 7-point road favorite, and they've won 3 out of 30 road games in the last 5 years. Now, the big reason I think New Mexico State is such an underdog here is they didn't play last year as an independent during the COVID season. They had no schedule. They played a 2020 spring schedule, 2 teams that are in lower division. But I think a home rivalry game against a team that's been awful covering with fans in front of the stands for the first time in 2 years for New Mexico State. Even though they're not a great team, I'll take the touchdown for a home dog. I like that type of profile. Home dogs of a touchdown or more in college football.
I will start by thanking you for picking such a marquee game. I'm sure if you weren't at home already standing up cheering this show on, you are cheering it on now. You're going to go week 0. I'll go week 1, Sunday, marquee game. I believe it's a standalone game. Florida State plus 9.5 against Notre Dame. A lot of people aren't going to want to take this. It was at one point 10. It has dropped to 9.5 for good reason. Do not sleep on the Seminoles this season. Wait. I'm not saying they contend for a national title. I'm not saying they win the ACC. But they have gone through a big downturn. Mike Norvell went 3-6 in his first year last season with the Seminoles, but they only had 3 spring practices. And when you have a new head coach, 3 spring practices, a pandemic, it's going to be tough to get everything going. 17 starters are back. Transfer quarterback Mackenzie Milton coming over from Central Florida could be the story of the year, coming off that catastrophic knee injury. We haven't seen him in a while. More on Notre Dame in a little bit. I could give you the anti-Notre Dame segment now, but maybe I'll wait, and that'll be a bit of a tease for the people. I'll be playing the Seminoles, who are at home in that one.
Yeah, another home dog, big home dog.
Yeah, big home dog. All right, so let's go a little bit big picture, whether it's a win total or something else. What else you got?
Again, another marquee program, since we're talking college football, programs are what they're called. The Liberty Flames, over 9 wins.
Hugh
Freeze and Malik Willis are the big reason why. I have them favored in 11 of the 12 games on their schedule this season, Brother Joe. The only game will be a dog. Hugh Freeze taking on his old pals at Ole Miss and Matt Corral. But Willis is an Auburn transfer who joins Hugh Freeze and makes up a dynamic head coach, play caller, and QB combo. And I don't think a Liberty Flame can win the Heisman, but Malik Willis' numbers will be Heisman worthy. I'll say that. His numbers will be Heisman worthy, but he won't win the Heisman. And they're bringing back from a team last year that was awesome under Malik Willis. 22 out of 24 possible starters. That includes the special teams, the specialists.
That is
so 22 of 24 back, a quarterback who can put up Heisman numbers, won't win it. 11 out of 12 games I have them favored. 9's a push. 10, 11, or 12 was a win, and I think they can do that.
All right, Liberty over 9. They might be a small school team, but the reality is they're a hell of a lot of fun to watch. If you put Liberty on TV, you are not going to be disappointed. It's not like Georgia Tech 5 years ago where you're going to sit there and wonder when is the game going to end. All right, to the aforementioned Notre Dame, under 9 wins, minus 145, juiced heavily. A lot of people out there going to be upset. I completely understand Notre Dame has a big following, but I'm not very high on them at all this season. Let's start with this. Only 9 starters are back. They lost 9 guys to the NFL, 9 draft picks. 9 starters are coming back. Only 3 of those guys are on offense. They lost 140 career starts along the offensive line. Quarterback Jack Cohn transferred over from Wisconsin. Cohn was a good game manager, but he didn't really throw the deep ball with any consistency, so that could be an issue for Notre Dame. The secondary has some issues as well in terms of inexperience, so keep that in mind. Let's look at the schedule. Wisconsin on a neutral. They're going to host Cincinnati, who many believe is a top 10 team to start the season. You got to host USC, who's going to be good this year. Then you're going to host UNC. The problem there is that you're going to play the Trojans and the Tar Heels back-to-back. But the Tar Heels have a bye the week before they go to South Bend to take on the Irish. Edge to Sam Howell, Heisman Trophy candidate, and the Tar Heels. And then ultimately you open the season at Florida State, which you probably should win, but I'm taking the Seminoles plus the points. I think the schedule's tough. I think there's a lot of inexperience here. I think there's a lot of star power that's gone. Questions at quarterback, questions in the secondary, under 9 wins for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I'm glad Jim, our director, is not directing today.
Yes.
It's Lisa instead. Lisa, I love you.
We might have gone to black.
Jim would have been very upset. You would not be seeing this beautiful face anymore throughout the show.
Filter that.
Be a one shot with some random voice from off in the distance. All right, let's transition to the National Football League. Earlier this week, yesterday to be specific, we gave you some, I believe, running back props that we were very fond of. If we have a graphic, let's take a look at what we fired away. Elliott for you, Harris for me were picks on Monday, and then we laid out 3 each that we like for this coming season. I like Darrell Henderson now that the Cam Akers injury has thrust him to a more marquee role. Aaron Jones, Antonio Gibson, I love that. I think Washington, a lot of people are sleeping on Washington. And if you're bullish on Washington right now, you could reap some big rewards in a variety of different ways come the end of the season. So today we're going to turn our attention to the pass catchers, tight ends, wide receivers, 3 each. We're going to go back and forth. You lead it off.
You know I don't like unders, so these are all overs here. And this is a name I've mentioned before, Robert Woods, though his line has moved from 1,000.5 to 1,025.5. This is about the upper range of where I'd go over. But bottom line is, big boost with Matt Stafford and the Cam Akers injury probably skews a little slightly more towards the passing. And of all the wide receivers, Sean McVay has, Robert Woods is the most well-rounded, and he's the one who's least likely to get hurt. Hasn't missed a game due to injury since 2017, and 10 out of 16 games last year, 90+% of offensive snaps, because he can run every route, he can block in the run game. He will be on the field more than any other wide receiver for Matt Stafford to throw to. That's why I like going over here.
Number 1, George Kittle over 1,050.5 receiving yards. He's done this in 2 of the last 3 years. Last year he didn't because he was injured. Injuries are a concern, but he did do it 2 years ago despite playing only 14 games. He gets the 17th game this season. That's one good reason. Number 2, the rise of Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel at wide receiver going to take a lot of the attention away from Kittle. And Kyle Shanahan is a master at scheming up plays to get Kittle open. For as good as George Kittle is, and for as much as the league knows about it, the dude runs wide open down the field way too often. Shanahan is a genius with that. Jimmy Garoppolo loves him. Trey Lance, when he starts, is going to need to lean on him. George Kittle, over 1,050.5 receiving yards. Next up.
All right, let's go to that Cincinnati passing game that I love so much. I think T. Higgins' numbers are a little soft in the market because of how excited, for good reason, everyone is over Jamar Chase joining this team. But last year as a rookie, T. Higgins caught 6 touchdown passes and 908 yards worth of catches, with Joe Burrow there only half the season. Now he has more weapons that defenses have to worry about. He's in his second year, and Burrow is back. So I'm over on 5.5 TDs, over on 1,000.5 yards. And if there were bets to prop slip, who's going to lead the Cincinnati Bengals in all these receiving categories, I'd hammer T. Higgins because I think most people are going to say it's got to be Jamar Chase. They just invested the 5th pick or the 5th overall pick, and he's the shower buddy of Joe Burrow from LSU. T. Higgins is the guy who's going to be the number 1 threat. Jamar Chase will be number 2 for that team next year.
Let's go to the Denver Broncos. Cortland Sutton over 975.5 receiving yards. This is a buy low proposition right here. Sutton only played 31 snaps last year before he tore his ACL. So as a result, his prop is going to be very, very low. This, ladies and gentlemen, is how we find value. 2 years ago as a sophomore, 1,112 receiving yards. Okay, so it's something he's done before, and he's already played with Joe Flacco, Case Keenum, Drew Lock, Brandon Allen. Now he gets more experience from Drew Lock, or he gets Teddy Bridgewater, an experienced, successful quarterback. Jerry Jeudy and other wide receivers around him are going to give him favorable coverage matchups. Cortland Sutton over 975.5, number 3.
Like his over touchdown prop as well, which I think is also 5.5. He's a touchdown machine, Sutton. Allen Robinson over 1,125.5 yards for the Bears wide receiver. He's cleared this threshold each of the past 2 seasons with the Bears, with Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback. Now, Andy Dalton maybe makes a start or 2, but Justin Fields should be starting the majority of the games. And for rookie quarterbacks, you know they're going to look at the best target on their team more often than not. If they're in trouble, just throw it to Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
And there is no one else on the Bears wide receiver or tight end room that is a threat to his mega alpha air yard share and target share. Allen Robinson is going to get looks. If he stays healthy, he should smash this, especially with the quarterback boost and Justin Fields, if and when he starts playing.
Sorry, Bills Mafia. Number 3, Stephon Diggs, under 1,375.5 receiving yards. This, as opposed to what we just did with Cortland Sutton as a buy low, is a sell high. This is a ridiculously high number. The Bills are great. Diggs is great. But this number is massive. In 6 NFL seasons, Diggs has eclipsed this number 1 time, and it was last year. All right, so now as a result, the number is inflated. There's an opportunity to go with the under. Buffalo's not going to sneak up on anybody this season. Everyone knows they can pass. Everyone knows Diggs is a stud. There's going to be tight coverage matchups week in and week out. I think the team's going to be good. I think the players are going to be good. I think the number's too high, which is why I'm playing the under. Let's transition to the Major League Baseball. Limited card today since it's a getaway day. So quickly, let's fire through. Best bet of what's remaining. What do you got?
I love Oakland tonight against the Angels. First 5 run line, first 5 money line. I think you can play them over the course of the game, their money line, and even the run line if you want to get a little boost there to your price tag. But basically, this is just a way better team against a team that outside of Shohei Ohtani is basically a squad of quadruple A players. Frankie Montas pitching for the A's. He's gotten better each and every month, and July has been his best month by far. 2.96 ERA, 1.07 WHIP, 30% K rate, 51% ground ball rate, a 25% hard contact rate. Guys are hitting soft stuff all over the place, and he's allowing less than a homer per 9 innings. His numbers have been great, and he's going up against a lineup that has Ohtani, but Ohtani's protection is a guy named Phil Gosselin, Joe, who has a career 692 OPS, and he's batting third. He's batting third for the Angels. Jared Walsh, Anthony Rendon on the IL. bad offense, and a good pitcher, and a great team that just acquired Starling Marte as well, who might make his A's debut.
All right, Pirates and Brewers under 8 runs is going to be the selection for me. The Brewers are going to send Freddie Peralta to the mound. He has been fantastic. 2 or fewer earned runs in 11 of his last 12 starts. And if you take a look at the Pirates, they have struggled mightily this season against right-handed pitching, bottom 10 in most metrics that matter when it comes to hitting in Major League Baseball. On the flip side, it's going to be Chad Kuhl going for Pittsburgh. Kuhl's been all right this season, but as of late, 2.48 ERA over his last 6 starts. And look at the home road splits. On the road this season, he's been terrible. 5.91 ERA. At home, 2.36. So we're going to go under 8 runs, Brewers and Pirates. It's time now for one of the segments we roll your way every single Thursday.
Got my pen ready.
The good word. Let's go ahead and lay out a statement. Whatever comes into that big dome, you go ahead and write it down and explain your rationale. We start with the National Football League. In regards to wide receiver Michael Thomas's recent knee surgery, Saints head coach Sean Payton said, quote, "Obviously, we would have liked that to happen earlier than later, and quite honestly, it should have," end quote. Thomas could miss the start of the season. The Saints are currently even money to make the playoffs, minus 120 to miss the playoffs.
Those comments are clearly frustrated. He's frustrated they no longer has Drew Brees to work with. He's frustrated that his star wide receiver has injured his ankle again. Remember, he missed all those games last year with an injured ankle. And the fact that it didn't happen earlier, so the time missed could have been reduced. It's clearly frustration coming from Sean Payton as he transitions to life without Drew.
I've got an F word for you as well. Careful.
Now.
This is a Disney company. That F word is foolish. Those comments are extraordinarily foolish. Wide receivers are the most volatile of all athletes in the world. Terrell Owens, Randy Moss. We saw what happened with Odell Beckham virtually every year. Michael Thomas has already had a problem with this team when it came to his contract holdout not too long ago. It wasn't very pleasant. Don't provoke Michael Thomas. You no longer, Sean Payton, have Drew Brees in that locker room maintaining a Zen-like atmosphere. Who knows what the leadership void looks like now that Brees is gone, but Thomas might be able to permeate some negativity in there. You can't have that. And on top of it, didn't you have an exit interview with him? Didn't you have an exit physical? Did you have no idea what was going on with Michael Thomas and an injury he sustained last year? You should have been on top of this. You should have been advising him. I'm not going to say it's your fault, but if you're going to get mad now, it's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. The good word, number 2. Rory McIlroy isn't wearing a hat at the Olympics. Why? Quote, "My head is so small that I have to get Nike to make me custom hats. So whenever I'm in a team event and the hats aren't custom, they're all too big."
Now, vain has a negative connotation, but I don't mean this negatively. I don't mean it negatively at all. If you notice, Rory's definitely got some salt and pepper on the side, but the top is a lot darker. I also remember, like I'm going through, Rory having a few softer spots on the vortex of his head that are now covered up. So I think Rory doesn't like wearing hats because he's worried about what it's doing to his hair. And I'm going through that with you, Rory. It's okay to have a little vanity, and I think it's okay for you during the Olympics to protect that salad that you have on top of your head with a little vanity.
Vanity, I love it.
Okay.
I've got what I think is actually the perfect word. Can you go ahead and clear me out here if you don't mind? Thank you very much. Go ahead, Fortenbaugh. Let's not screw this up. There we go. There's really only one word that fits what we're talking about. The man has a pinhead.
Oh, come on.
He admitted himself he's got a pinhead. The head is too small, therefore he has a pinhead. Although I will say this, it must be very nice to have Nike on your side.
Yeah.
If you need a hat, custom hats, custom gear, the stuff you're only wearing on Sundays, no one else gets an opportunity to wear it. You have a pinhead, and it's worth mentioning here because, well, you brought it up first. Number 3, your NBA draft fashion statement would be what? Assuming you were a highly regarded basketball player about to be drafted.
If you know me, you know
Stop
it'd be
traffic.
loud.
Stop traffic.
These shoes, I don't know if you can get a good shot, one shot of the
Well, you're showing them
print.
the sole of the shoe.
Yeah, sorry, the print
There you
on the
go.
shoe there.
Very nice.
Something like that on my tuxedo, something like that, so it looks good. But it would be loud. Bottom line, it'd be loud.
Loud.
It'd be
I
really
will
loud.
go with Buffer, as in Bruce Buffer, and those custom tuxedo jackets he wears when he's in the ring for UFC events. I love those. The patterns, the colors, they look fantastic. I've actually looked into it before. quite expensive.
I imagine Bruce
As you would
Buffer
probably imagine.
expensive
Quite
tastes.
expensive. We're up against it really quickly right now. Sucker bets, we have them
Okay.
out. Is there anything that jumps out very quickly?
Yeah, your proud Patriot is fading Team USA at -250 favorites to win the gold in men's basketball at the Olympics. That is a sucker bet if you're buying the red, white, and blue.
Good thing you're holding red, the sign of communism around the world. I will take the sucker bet being the San Diego Padres -270 against the Colorado Rockies. Joe Musgrove hasn't been pitching well as of late. Kyle Freeland is pitching for the Rockies. He's a lefty. The Padres don't hit lefties well. Do not lay that price. If you do anything, sprinkle a little on the Rockies. That's Tyler Fulghum. I'm Joe Fortenbaugh. This has been Bet. Have a great weekend. Catch us today on ESPN2 Daily Wager starting at 6 p.m. Eastern for everything you need NBA draft related.
Say, can you see?